So my name is Wilson Rojas. I'm the Assistant Director for Emerging and Innovative Technologies at the Center for Excellence and Teaching and Learning.
What does AI literacy mean in higher education today and beyond simply knowing how to use AI tools?
You know, it means a lot of things to different people. At least in my view, there are three main things when we talk about AI literacy. As you mentioned in part of your question, how to use the tools. Like that's part of it. But also a big part of literacy, at least with AI, is to understand how the systems work and understand that these systems in their internal work or internal parts in the way they work, actually they don't hold knowledge in the way you and I hold knowledge. These systems are in fact predictive systems. Based on their training data, they will give you the answer with the most probability. But also there is a really important part, which is the ethics behind the systems. The ethics also a little bit kind of overlaps on how the systems are trained, but also how they work, right? But also there's a ethical point of view in terms of how we use the systems. When you understand how the systems work, then you can start making decisions on how to use the systems. And I think that's also part of literacy. But also there's a part of literacy, at least with AI systems, that align with how you evaluate the outputs, right? And for that, you need to go beyond AI literacy. You have to go beyond your own content expertise, if you will. Like for example, in my case, I wouldn't ask an AI system about, like for example, like investments or how to repair a car, right? Because I don't have the expertise on those areas. So because I don't have the expertise, I might take the output as face value and say like, hey, sounds right, or sounds correct, which in reality might not be.
Thank you. And I want to ask for an explanation for you to define. I know you've mentioned cognitive offloading in your presentation in the AI age, and where should educators draw the line between helpful support and over-reliance?
So we have been offloading thinking for a long time, right? We have done it. And cognitive offloading is this process in which we offload some of the cognitive load to technology, right? We have done it in the past, like for example, remembering phone numbers, right? Like less and less we pay attention to remember phone numbers and we just put them in our phones. So we have done that a lot for the past 20, 40 years. Some people call it the Google effect, right? People started forgetting things or intentionally not remembering things because they know they can have access to that later. With that said, the challenge here with the AI is this thinking itself. If you start looking at Bloom's taxonomy, right? Applying, judging, or creating those big levels, kind of the higher levels that we want our students to engage in, those now can be done fairly well by AI. So with that said, how do you create environments where students still, maybe you want them to use AI, but they offload less? And to me, it's part on efficiency. There are some tasks that by nature, they're going to start being offloading to AI. Where we have to be extremely careful is when, for example, we start asking AI systems to write this paper for me or put this PowerPoint together for me. How do you combat that? It's always, in my view, you have to bring something to the table. If you are going to, for example, use it for a paper, first ask your teacher or professor if it's okay, but use it as a partner, right? Rather than ask, write the paper for me, maybe you can ask for feedback. Here's my draft. Here's for example, the rubric. Here's the assignment. Does my paper align? And what are the things that are out of alignment? That's a better way to do it because that could be also be done by a human. But the difference there is you are not relying on the training data of the system itself. You are bringing things to the table. So that's in my way, or in my view, you decrease that cognitive offloading. You already did the thinking, right? You wrote the paper. As the best of your ability, were able to follow the instructions. You read the rubric. But now you have a second pair of eyes to look at, am I aligning with this or not? So I think that's where we need to start thinking about where those kind of situations can happen in the classroom.
Could you expand on what it means to keep a human in the loop?
Sure. So Molek in, forgot the name of the book, Co-Intelligence, he talks about this concept of human in the loop, right? Where now that we have all these systems, kind of year one, what I call year one, it was all about we're gonna let AI do all these things, and we assign AI intelligence, right? A level of intelligence. As we discovered that AI can make mistakes, who is checking those mistakes? So this is kind of this concept of human in the loop comes into play, where you ask or you delegate AI a task. So notice my language, it's not AI is gonna do this. You are delegating a task to AI, it does it, but then you have to check it. And also this is part of the literacy part and the ethical part that we were talking about, right? You have to check that output because someone has to essentially like take ownership of that output, right? Because the machine doesn't have an ownership of it, right? It's you. So where in, going back to my example of the paper, where are you having those check-ins so you can check the output and interrogate it and be critical about it too. For example, like English is not my first language, so I use AI a lot for my emails. In the past, I would say, hey, write an email about this topic, and I will spend 45 minutes trying to edit it, right? Now I change because of this human in the loop, cognitive offloading, I kind of changed my approach. I write my email, I spend solid 5-10 minutes writing the email, pass it through AI, and I ask for feedback. And mostly what I ask is, this is the goal, this is the email, are they aligned, right? I look for alignment, at least in my writing. And it gives me some feedback, and then I take that feedback, but this is where the critical part comes into play too. Some feedback doesn't really make sense to me, right? Oh, you have to add this paragraph or add this point. I'm like, but that's not what I want, right? So I'm using my critical lens to say, this is good feedback, you have a good point here. This is terrible, I'm not gonna use this. So again, it's not that we have to take everything that we get, but we have to be critical about what we actually evaluate.
Thank you. You touched upon critical thinking. So my next question will be, if AI increases efficiency but may reduce memory and critical thinking, how should teaching practices adapt in response?
You know, that's where we have to start moving a little bit from like a theory-based approach to more like a practical, like how do our students apply the knowledge that they gain, right? And I think that's where, like, you know, learning environments, as we create these new environments, like they are more authentic, this is where, you know, that part of critical thinking comes into play. I allow the students to think critically about this particular topic that AI might not have an answer for, right? Thinking about, like, for example, problems in the community, right? Or like, you know, having a particular issue. AI really struggles with being really specific, and if you start looking or you start interrogating AI outputs based on your own knowledge, you start seeing like, this is really basic, this is really surface level. So to create environments where we are thinking critically and promote this critical thinking, we have to create environments where can be applied, like that thought can be applied to solve issues. And that's where AI might have a little little bit more trouble to articulate, because again, it's an aggregation of data, right? By average, this is going to be the average response. But maybe we don't need an average response here. We need a more specific tailor, for example, to true or false if we are talking about a community issue, right? Rather than something that, I don't know, was applied in New York or Chicago or whatever.
Thank you. This is going to be my last question.
Yeah, no problem.
So how can educators design learning environments that encourage thinking rather than passive dependence on AI tools?
I think it goes back to how much application we allow. In my view, as educators, our responsibility is to create learning environments that allow students to make sense of learning. Learning is an internal process, right? We are called to create those environments. If we create those environments where, again, students can explore, can make mistakes, but also can think critically, right? And thinking critically doesn't necessarily mean having a critical eye or be critical of something. Is like, can you challenge the thinking that you are providing in pushing it a little bit, right? Within the confines of the class, to essentially help students to think outside the box. Because again, AI doesn't do that. It cannot think outside the box because it doesn't have the knowledge that we have in terms of the world. It doesn't understand that. AI systems have a limited amount of knowledge because their training data is set to certain parameters in terms of time. After that, they don't know anything. So how, for example, current events are taught in class, and how do you bring those to make students again think critically? And I think that's kind of the point, is building connections, right? The most more important than ever, teachers should be creating and must be creating connections with students, creating that kind of environment where everybody can learn from each other, allowing students to have a voice and also to explore. Again, those are things that we have been talking in education for a long time, but now those are things that really resonate with this idea that instead of being transactional, because that's where also students rely on AI, or they start like moving towards AI. Like, okay, I have to write this paper, or I have to do this report, or I have to do that, and then I get a grade. That's transactional. But when we invite the students to explore within, again, the confinements of the topic or the unit or whatever that is, and say like, you know what, here are options, choices, right? Explore them. That creates ownership from the part of the student in terms of their own learning. Then I'm gonna be more invested in learning. Therefore, I don't need to rely on AI, right? Because it's not transactional anymore. It's, for me, is exploration, right? I can explore, and I can explore my own interests. And with that, you create learning environments that not necessarily push away AI, but decrease the likelihood of students using it to complete the task, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Thank you so much.
No problem.